Y'all, Holly Anto with Plum Crossroads Farm in Wichita Falls, Texas. Someone asked me the other day, I recorded my intro video in this, what looks like a very generic office instead of on the farm. The reason is, this is the quietest place I have to record. But like most small farmers and small producers, I have a day job. This is actually my regular job. I am a marketer and a copywriter by trade. The simple fact is that most of us farmers and producers, you can't make a living on it. My daddy always said, there's no money in farming. You're never going to get rich as a farmer. And he's right and also wrong, because it depends on what type of farming you're doing and how you're doing it. And more importantly, it depends on what your scale is, because if you're at a high scale, you can make big money at it. For most of the small farmers that you're going to encounter, as you're going to run into at a farmer's market, they're not making money. They have a day job, or they have a husband or wife that's working off the farm. That's what's actually paying the bills. And so I will have some more episodes coming up later that are going to be like on-farm episodes and that are going to be a little bit more hands-on and stuff. But I wanted to touch on this because I actually thought this was a very important topic and something that I really wanted to address. The fact is that for most small farmers, we can't actually make a living doing this. It has to do with economies of scale, and it also has to do with the question of, we're always doing this balancing act, because whether you like it or not, this ultimately it's a question of like, what can we afford to do? And so I wanted to give you an example, one that you may be familiar with or one that you may understand. I want to talk about chickens. And I want to talk about meat chickens because that's kind of, that's a whole different issue, and honestly, I don't have a lot of experience there. I want to talk about chicken eggs and running an egg laying business, or the egg laying side of business. Now, I don't actually do eggs. Eggs are not my cash crop. I sell extra eggs when my chickens are just laying a lot and I have extra. I'll offer extra eggs for sale, but eggs are not my cash crop. But I want to talk a little bit about this because I think it's a really good illustration. So let's say that you are a small farmer, a small producer. You have 6 chickens. Now the minimum, let's back up. The minimum for animal welfare for a chicken is 4 square feet per bird. So if you were buying these eggs in the grocery store, just your standard like $1.25 a dozen cheap eggs, these birds live in cages. They're isolated. They live their entire lives in an individual cage. It's about 4 square feet. It's literally the bare minimum. And they're separated from other birds. They get all their food and all their water delivered, and then they poop out eggs. And that's basically all they do. That's literally all their life is. They never see sunshine. They never get access to grass. They never eat a bug. They never do any natural, normal chicken behaviors. They just spend their entire lives in an individual cage. When you see eggs that are a little bit more expensive that are labeled cage-free, the only thing that means is that the birds are not in individual cages. And this is a step up in chicken welfare, because chickens are actually social animals. They live in flocks. They do not thrive when they're isolated in cages. They're not happy like that. So cage-free usually means, we're talking one step up, that instead of putting them in individual cages, you put them into a chicken house. And this is kind of like a chicken coop, but it's usually bigger and it's a bigger flock. And so now all the chickens kind of live in a little colony together, but still cage free. Usually these chickens, they don't have access to the outside. They a lot of times live on concrete or wire floors. They can't peck, they can't dig for bugs. They don't get access to grass, they don't get access to sunlight. So it's still not great, but it's a little bit better than like your bottom of the barrel stuff. Now, one step up from that is the stuff that you see that is labeled free range. Chicken keepers will not call this free range. So this is an area where commercial terms and chicken keeper terms are different. Okay, so let's talk chicken keeper terms. Chicken keeper terms would usually call this a chicken run. A chicken run is an area where chickens are let outside to play and explore. Usually, the bare minimum is 11 square feet per bird. And it gives the chickens a place where they can dig for bugs, they can peck, they can explore, they can roost on little things and branches, and they can play, and they can have a more natural chicken life. They are still confined. This helps to keep them safe from predators because literally every single thing in the world thinks that chickens are delicious and they will eat them. So a chicken run is like this. But one of the things you have to remember is that chickens like to dig. Naturally, they dig in the dirt. So if you have a chicken run 11 square feet per bird, there's not going to be any grass in it because chickens are going to dig it up. So it's usually going to be bare dirt, but they will still get to dig for bugs and things like that. Now, pastured is kind of one step above that. So pastured, the chickens might be in like a chicken tractor that gets moved every day. But pastured means that the chickens get access to grass, and it means that the chickens get to dig in grass. They might be confined, but they have grass. That's what pastured means. And then the step up from that is free range. Free range generally means 250 to 300 square feet per bird. So this is a lot of space. Usually free range is going to have pastured included in that. The downside to free range that most chicken keepers know is, remember I said earlier, chickens are delicious. Everything wants to eat your chickens. So when you're free ranging, you tend to get a lot of losses from predators. Legally, and it's actually not a legal definition, it's a marketing definition. When you see free range eggs at the store, all that means is that the chickens are allowed to go outside and get sunlight and dig in dirt. So what most like factory farm type things, what they call free range, a chicken keeper would call a chicken run. So little difference in terminology there, and now you know. But let's talk about your small chicken producer. Let's say they have 6 chickens. They're going to have a coop that is at minimum 24 square feet, so 6 foot by 4 foot. They have, if they want to do a run, they're going to have a 66 square foot run. But if they want to free range these, actually free range, like chicken keepers think free range, they've got to have 1,650 square feet, and they're going to get 38 eggs a week, give or take. Most chickens lay about every day, depending on the breed of chicken. So you're looking at about 6.5 eggs a week is about what they lay, so about 38 eggs a week. So call it 3 dozen eggs. During that week, if you have them in a run where they're not getting a lot of access, or if it's winter where there's just not a lot of grass, not a lot of bugs, where they're eating their full ration, on average they're going to eat about 10.5 pounds over the 6 birds, because they eat about half a pound each, quarter pound each of layer feed every day. Now, if you're feeding them the cheapest stuff you can buy, in 1 week, they're going to eat $2.44 worth of the cheap feed. Now, this is like the cheap stuff you can buy at Tractor Supply. If you're buying in bulk from a grain co-op, or if you're making your own feed, you can get that cost down even more. But that's like the cheapest stuff you can buy, like on the market, like at Tractor Supply or whatever. If you want to feed them organic feed, way more expensive, you're looking at $7.87 to feed them for a week. Now let's talk about your other costs. The chicks, cheap, $2 to $20, depending on the breed of chick, if you want fancy chicks or whatever. But if you're raising for production, you're probably paying $3 to $5 a chick. I mean, that's negligible over the life cycle of a chick. That's not a big deal. What is expensive is your housing and your fencing. And your fencing is huge because you have to control the predators and your feed costs. And your feed cost is an ongoing, all the time thing. So if you think about just your feed cost, right? $7.87. If you want to feed these chickens organic feed, for 3 dozen eggs, you paid $7.87. So right there, you're looking at $2.50 a dozen, basically, to break even on feed costs. Now, your coop is one thing. You can buy a coop pre-made, but if you want something that's really predator safe, you really are going to build your own coop or have it built. So you're looking at a cost for 6x4, given current lumber prices, which are insane right now, probably what, $250, maybe $300. Call it $300, because I mean it is. You've got to build something strong enough to withstand predators. I live in town, fortunately, so I have very limited predator pressure. But if you're free ranging, like actual chicken keeper free ranging, 1650 square feet, out in the country or whatever, you've got coyotes, you've got wild boar, you've got skunks, raccoons, weasels, martins, snakes, you name it. And so you've got a lot of predator pressure. You have to really, really be careful with it. So call it $300 for your coop. $300 for your coop, that's one thing. But then what about your predators? You're talking about fencing in 1,650 square feet. And even when everything is fenced in, you still have to deal with hawks. You still have to deal with your raptors and your other animals that will come in from the air and take your chickens. And then you have a loss of your chickens. Once you have a loss of your chickens, now suddenly you're not making your money. So it's pretty easy to see how $4 a dozen for chickens being fed organic feed, for eggs from chickens being fed organic feed, that's not excessive. That's literally barely breaking even. So if what you're looking for is for chickens being actually free ranged on lots and lots of pasture, if that's what you're thinking, you have to keep in mind this is not cheap. And then there's the cost of land to add into that. How much money is being spent on land? And land is not cheap. Land that has good pasture that can support that's not cheap either. When you move into economies of scale, when you scale up, the cost on a weekly basis, or the cost goes down. When you buy cheap feed, your cost goes down. When you keep your chicks in a teeny tiny little 66 square foot run where they barely have room to play, your cost goes down because now you're fencing and protecting a smaller area, right? So all of this, you're making these decisions about how much do I want to spend in order to maintain animal welfare and in order to produce a really good quality product, because the more greens they get, the more bugs they get, the better product you get, the better flavor, the better nutrition, all that good stuff, right? So this whole time you're maintaining this balancing act here between the cost, because the cost does go up, and between the quality level and the animal welfare concerns. And this is the reason why so many farmers have an off-farm job, because so much of the time what the market will pay for our products, even for our premium products, even when we're charging a premium price, what the market will pay simply is not enough for us to actually make a profit. It's barely enough for us to break even. So one of the things that I encourage you to think about when you are shopping at the farmer's market, when you're buying and stuff like that, I want to encourage you to have some conversations with your food producers and with the people that are growing your food. Ask them about how they're growing. Ask them about how they're producing. Ask them questions about the details. I get clients, I get customers that will ask me things like, can you tell me what's in the chicken feed? How much access to grass do the chickens have? Well, my chickens have no access to grass because they're in a chicken run. Their run's about 800 square feet, and I have 9 birds. So they have a really good sized run, but they have no grass in it. What they do get is they get my microgreen trays, and then they also get weeds and gardening surplus and stuff. So they do get plenty of green stuff, but I can't grow grass because the run is too small for to grow grass. But ask your producers questions and ask them about the product they're producing, and find out. If you think the price is too high, ask the producers, what are you using as pesticides? What are you using as seeds? What are you using as feed? And chances are that when you start asking your farmer and you ask your producer these questions, it'll pretty quickly become apparent why they are priced the way that they are. And it's usually because they have made a decision to pay for that quality. But yeah, so I really just wanted to touch on that a lot of times what looks like the farmer is maybe charging too much or something like that, a lot of times what's really going on is just the fact that we're really trying hard to pay attention to things like animal welfare and environmental concerns, and we're trying to do things in the right way, and we're trying to make a value-based decision, even though we know that's going to cost a little bit more. So ask your farmer and ask them why they're doing things the way that they're doing, and find out what they say. So anyways, thank you again. Thank you all for supporting me and for supporting your local farmers, and we really couldn't do it without you, and we really appreciate it. Bye.